How's it going, everybody? It's John Little Fox. Here's my show where I talk about anime, video games, cartoons, most notably Sonic and Ninja Turtles. And today, I'm here to talk about a little bit of Sonic crossed over with DC Comics. Yep. So I know it's the recent crossover that's in right now for the IDW Sonic comics and DC Comics and all that stuff. So that's pretty cool. Never have dreamed of this ever happening before. Like I was like, oh shit, because last year they were saying that there was a Sonic crossover and stuff that's gonna go down, and they didn't mention what franchise it will be. I was like, is it finally gonna be Sonic crossover with Ninja Turtles and stuff, which will make a lot more sense because they've been licensed by the same companies time and time and again. Like at one point they were both licensed by Archie at one point until I guess Archie lost the license to TMNT. And they had some cameos in each other's story, but never like really a full-on crossover or a storyline or anything like that. And currently, they're both owned by IDW Comics, and TMNT is doing every other crossover with just about everything but Sonic, like Power Rangers, Batman, He-Man, Stranger Things of all things, Street Fighter, but apparently not Sonic, which has been every fan's dream. But that's neither here nor there. But I'm just saying those are my two favorite franchises, so you know how it is. But it can still happen somewhere down the road, so that's always nice. I mean, if this is possible, then shit, probably any other crossover would be possible. So anyways, we got this Sonic and DC Comics crossover and stuff. Like I said, never have dreamed that this will ever happen. It's a pretty good story so far. I got the first issue. It actually came out on my birthday, of all days, so that was pretty nice. I was like, oh shit, issue number 77 and the Sonic DC crossover coming out on my own birthday on a Wednesday? Okay. So anyways, basically the story is, it's pretty simple and to the point. So Darkseid, he comes and he tries to conquer Sonic's world. I believe he's after the Chaos Emeralds. He takes out Angel Island and the Master Emerald and all that stuff. Pretty much, and then pretty much Sonic and the Justice League all team up to try and stop Darkseid. That's pretty much the gist of it. So, a pretty good, like I said, it's a pretty good story so far for the first issue. I'm pretty sure this is going to be maybe 4 to maybe 5 issues or something like that. I think it's 4 issues. But yeah, so that's always nice. Alright, so I'm going to give my opinion on what everybody's been thinking about, and that is, of course, on whether or not is Sonic or Flash the fastest fictional character out there. Well, you pretty much know where I lean in this type of way. But if you were to ask me on a personal level, or not even on a personal level, but like my bias aside, I honestly actually think that Sonic and Flash are both kind of neck and neck. That it's actually a pretty close. It's very close. Like I'm not going to sit here and lie. It's not as one-sided as most people would think because a lot of people don't really think of Sonic's feats like that. I know Flash is he's a comic book character and he's been around a lot longer than Sonic, and we've seen Flash do a lot of crazy things with his speed. Because, that's his primary ability and stuff compared to, like, Sonic and all that, But, I still think that in terms of, like, speed, Sonic's also got a lot of feats, too, that still allows him to keep up with Flash and stuff, And I know a lot of people like to point to Archie and stuff, which I'll get to in a minute. But even video game Sonic also has a lot of crazy, ridiculous speed feats that I think is probably just as fast, if not faster than Archie, but that's up for debate. But anyways, so of course we know Archie Sonic for like doing things like he's outran like literally a sound note. Like he played like a sound note on a guitar and outran it and stuff like that, or running through raindrops and stuff like that, shadow boxing his own shadow, and stating that he can move faster than the speed of light, which is why his own shadow can't keep up with him. Basically throwing water at like so many milliseconds or whatever. Which if you actually calculate that, which I know Death Battle did a while back when they were, comparing Flash and Sonic and stuff, or Archie Sonic with Wally West, it actually translated into like 100 attoseconds and stuff. So that's a pretty ridiculous speed feat right there, and very underrated. Then of course, running around a multiverse and stuff, Sonic's done that. Back inside Archie Comics and stuff, he ran around an entire multiverse. So like one time there was like this storyline where Sonic had to collect a bunch of like himself, like a different version, like thousands of versions of himself, to go up against Robo Robotnik, which Robo Robotnik will later on become his own version of Dr. Eggman later on. But basically they needed 1,000 Sonics, and Sonic has ran around like literally to thousands of universes just to pick up or recruit thousands of verses of himself, and he's done that in less than a day. That is so ridiculously fast and stuff. Like that is definitely way faster than the speed of light. You know what I mean? Which it would take the speed of light from Earth to the sun about like what 8 minutes actually. It would take about 8 minutes from like light to actually reach from like the sun to the Earth, and from the moon it would probably take like what 1 second or something. So yeah, but Sonic, like I said, that is ridiculously how like much faster than the speed of light he was inside the Archie comics. And you can also say like because the Archie comics, like most of those feats that I just rattled off is mostly just feats of like classic Archie Sonic back when the Archie Sonic comics used to be more so of a parody kind of book than an actual like serious story. And then when the story got more serious, they kind of toned back on the on the ridiculous speed feats and stuff. I mean, of course, Sonic will display it every now and then, but he wasn't like what I mean. But those are still kind of consistent though, because he's also still performed some of those feats like running around the multiverse and stuff like that, or taking the cosmic interstate. But yeah. And then let's see. But yeah. But even in the games though, like I mean, a lot of people don't like to mention this or don't bring this up because they kind of downplay the games or don't think that the video games are as strong as the Archie comics. But if you actually played like Sonic Frontiers and all that stuff, oh yeah, you definitely know that Sonic is definitely no joke. Or seeing like some of the stuff that he's done, like in Sonic and the Secret Rings or Black Knight, where he's like, and I know those are different forms like Dark Spine Sonic or Excalibur Sonic, but even then he was still fighting and defeating universal threats and stuff. Or the Egg Salamander, which is a multiversal threat, and then of course Solaris, who can literally eat dimensions for breakfast and stuff like that. So yeah, it's fair to kind of say that Super Sonic, even inside the games and stuff, is definitely around multiversal, if not higher, in terms of like his destruction capability. So yeah, but even in terms of speed though, like Sonic's done things in the games like vibrating his molecules and stuff, like kind of just like what the Flash can do, because we all know that Flash can vibrate his molecules to pass through like solid objects and stuff. I kind of made a video years ago where I was actually breaking down as to why I was debunking Wally West and Archie Sonic and stuff, and I was saying how Wally West, his vibrating ability works a lot more differently compared to Barry Allen, where he can pass through solid objects, but the solid objects that he passes through actually destroys whatever he passes through, which is why he doesn't use that technique like that. But Death Battle claimed and pulled up a feat from like from another universe of Barry Allen, not Wally West. So that was weird. But anyways, but Sonic could also vibrate his molecules too. He's actually done that before in the games. Like, for example, his Insta Shield, which they described in the Fleetway comics, which I know that's Fleetway. He's actually vibrating the molecules around him to form a shield. And I think they even said that too inside the official Sonic instruction manual as well. And then on top of that, in Sonic Battle, Sonic's able to vibrate his molecules. Him and Tails can both vibrate their molecules at super speed to actually heal faster. So, because most of the characters had like a healing factor in that game, and there was always some kind of explanation. So, for Sonic and Tails, since they both have super speed, they can vibrate their molecules that fast and all that stuff, which kind of shows you the degree of control they have over their super speed. And then also Archie was able to like do things like pass through like solid objects, time barriers, and stuff like that, etc. Which I know is kind of a little ridiculous, but I mean it is fiction after all. And then of course in the games, Sonic's also ran through time and space. He's time traveled through other dimensions and stuff like that. But inside Sonic Generations and stuff, when time was all messed up by Time Eater, both modern and classic Sonic were actually fast enough to actually repair time and space and restore its color back to its natural form and everything, and restore the universe. So, and they were able to do that without Chaos Control. And then also, what else? Outrunning black holes. Sonic's also done that a lot. Even in the games and stuff, Sonic's outran black holes. In IDW comics, he outran a black hole actually. And that, what was that? What was it? Badnik Base? No, not Badnik Base. What was that arc? Yeah. It wasn't Badnik Base. That was that Chow Race thing. But it was that one arc where Tangle Tangle, Bell, Amy, Tails, and Sonic. They were going up against those Egg Vipers and stuff like that. And the base was, yeah. Well, I'll probably put the description of what it is in the video. But anyways, yeah, even in there, he outran a black hole. Sonic Boom, Sonic outran a black hole. And in the video games, yeah, in Sonic Colors, that was probably the first time we've seen Sonic outran a black hole. Actually, no, probably the second. I think he outran a black hole too inside Sonic Shuffle, him and his friends, which that is also canon. Then, let's see, inside Sonic Superstars, not too long ago, Super Sonic is also shown that he's able to outrun black holes. Sonic Lost World, if you actually played that last segment with the final boss with the Egg Robo and stuff, again, Sonic in his base form is still able to outrun black holes. It just takes him a little effort where you gotta hold that run button and stuff to avoid it, or else you'll be killed instantly. But still, that's a pretty big feat right there. That's again more proof that he's massively faster than light. So for the people that really downplay Sonic and think he's only the speed of sound, I mean, not really, you know. And then also like keeping up with Solaris, which again some people probably don't realize this, but Solaris is a being that exists throughout both the past, present, and future. So Dr. Eggman was saying inside Sonic 06, which I know a lot of people be like, well, Sonic 06 is non-canon because, I mean, it still happened though. I mean, it may not have happened because it was erased from the timeline, but it's not to say that, you know, video game Sonic still can't perform those feats that he did in those games, you know, like did inside that game though, you know what I mean? It's just that the entire event was erased though. But Solaris is basically a being, a super dimensional being that exists from past, present, and future. And in case you guys don't know what that's called omnipresent, meaning you exist everywhere at the same time, that kind of thing, okay? And it took both Super Sonic, Super Silver, and Super Shadow, the three of them, to be like existing in all those locations and stuff just to defeat Solaris. Which doesn't mean that Super Sonic is omnipresent, but at least like he can move fast enough where he's like at least maybe nigh omnipresent, if you want to be technical in that one, I guess. But yeah. And then of course escaping an outer verse and stuff, which he did inside not Frontiers. He did that inside Sonic Forces actually, where inside Sonic Forces. So in case you guys don't know what an outer verse is, an outer verse is basically like a dimension that's not really bound by other dimensions and stuff. I think I kind of mentioned this once before in another video when I was talking about how fast Sonic is and stuff, like when it was relevant. I can't remember when. It was probably like a year or two ago or something like that, but it wasn't that long ago, honestly. But and I think I was saying I was misspeaking that it was an omniverse. I meant to say it was an outer verse. That's the major difference right there. But regardless, though, that's a much more bigger than a multiverse, and that's a lot more complicated than, you know what I mean? So that's all the more proof I'm saying, like, yeah, even video game Sonic is still just as fast as his Archie counterpart and can still perform those same kind of feats that Archie Sonic does. It's just, he's not really flashy about it, though. It's, you know, like, they don't showcase those abilities like that, you know? And even, like, some of the writers, like Ian Flynn and stuff, like, Ian Flynn tries to really nerf Sonic a little bit, where he's like, you know, and I think he said it himself that, I mean, in his own opinion, that he kind of considers Flash to be faster than Sonic because Sonic's just a little bit more easier to write, I guess. Don't really completely agree with that opinion. I mean, again, this may maybe the writer's opinion and stuff, but sometimes the writers don't really do power scaling like that, especially on characters they don't work on like that. So I'm just saying, but. So Sonic's pretty fast and stuff, but I wouldn't really take whatever happens in this storyline to be the fact or the truth or whatever the matter. I'm pretty sure they're gonna leave it to be ambiguous, where they're both just as fast as each other stuff, or something like that. Because again, Sonic's the fastest in his universe, and Flash the fastest in his. So I'm pretty sure it's just gonna be a neck and neck kind of thing, you know. So that's how I see it, but. Yeah, so I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to take it to heart, but I probably will say that, I mean, it's the more proof that, yeah, Sonic can definitely keep up with the Flash, or it's not, again, a one-sided, kind of thing where the Flash would instantly blitz the hell out of Sonic and stuff, you know? So anyways, before I head out, I kind of actually wanted to talk about the character dynamics because I actually like that the most in this story. Where you have the characters like Knuckles and Superman, which I wanted to talk about that specifically. You got Amy and Wonder Woman, you got Batman and Shadow and stuff. They're both kind of bonding over loss and stuff. You got Tails and Cyborg, the two smart characters of the group and stuff that like, you know, technology and everything. You got Silver and Green Lantern, which I never really thought about that pairing, but I guess, you know, in the grand scheme of like their abilities and stuff and how it works, you know, with their mind and imagination and stuff, I guess, yeah, it's kind of similar. I mean, Silver's is more so telekinesis and psychokinesis, and obviously, you know, Green Lantern is more so like energy construction and stuff, you know. And then, of course, you got the two speedsters, Sonic and Flash and stuff. I kind of like how Sonic and Flash are both calling each other by their colors and stuff. Like, Sonic's like, hey, is that the guy Red? And then Flash is like, hey, what's up, Blue? You know, I kind of like that, though. I do like those names and stuff, you know. And I'm not even sure if this is really Barry Allen or Wally West. I think this is Barry Allen, given that you got, well, but then again, it could be Wally West for all I know, because they got John Stewart, Green Lantern and stuff, which is kind of cool. And usually John Stewart is kind of paired up with like Wally West or something more so than Barry Allen, I guess. So who knows? And I think the costume actually looks a little bit more like Wally West, but I don't know. But they've been using Barry Allen a lot, so who knows? Cyborg and stuff, you know, he's also here. That's pretty nice, I guess. I'm not really a huge fan of Cyborg being a part of the Justice League, guys. I just feel like it's a little out of place in my opinion, but it is what it is. But what I personally like, though, is I definitely like Superman and Knuckles' his dynamic the most out of everybody's here and stuff, you know? Because I actually like how they actually have a lot more in common than I actually thought. I was like, oh, yeah, I guess that is true. Because Knuckles and Superman, they're both kind of the last of their own kind and stuff. You know, Knuckles is the last Echidna, and Superman is the last Kryptonian and stuff, you know? Like, it all started with, like, Knuckles handling some parademons and stuff on Angel Island. And so Darkseid was about to blow up Angel Island and all that stuff. And then Superman, who I thought for a second was Sonic, but of course, you know, it's Superman, came out of nowhere, flew in, saved Knuckles, and got the hell up off that island and stuff. I was like, yeah, that was kind of cool, though. He was like, whoosh, you know? Like in the little sound effect from, like, Superman the Animated Series and stuff, or Justice League, yeah. Which a lot of the dialogue and the voice actors here, or the voicing here, kind of reminds me of like those voice actors from the old Justice League, and of course, you know, Cyborg, you know, his Teen Titans voice actor and stuff. So yeah. But anyways, but yeah, I really do like it and stuff. And then when like Calabac, Darkseid's son, shows up, Knuckles starts to beat the hell out of Calabac, and then Superman comes in and takes out Calabac, and Knuckles is all like, "Come on, I had him, Superman." He's like, "Oh, sorry, Knuckles. Thanks for softening him up for me and stuff." You know, so I kind of like their dynamic and stuff. It's pretty nice, you know, and it's not something I just, you know, apart from them both having super strength and, you know, favoring the color red, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess they do have some stuff in common, you know. So that's just all like what I wanted to mention. But anyways, this is the end of my video. What'd you guys think of the DC Sonic crossover? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Are you looking forward to it? I'm pretty sure you guys are. Like I said, it's not something I would have expected, but I was like, well, I'm here for it. You know, I'm like, I mean, shit, I grew up with DC, and I grew up with Sonic and stuff. Never really dreamt in a million years that this would ever happen or be a thing, but hey, it's here, and it's a thing, so yeah. Yeah, or what are you guys' thoughts on it, you know? But this is the end of the video. This is Joe Fox. I'm out. Peace, and until we meet again.